So far, for SQL, um, we've gone through basic syntax in SQL. We've gone through SQL joins. Now, to build on what we've learned so far, today we'll be looking at SQL aggregations. So look at SQL aggregate functions. So imagine you are the manager of a sales team, right? So when you do select star from a table, for example, it shows you rows of data, right? Several rows of data. But in some instances, it will be best to aggregate the data based on a field or a couple of fields. Let's say, for example, as a manager of a sales team, you want to look at the total sales for all the members of your team. In this instance, you need to aggregate, right? You sum up all the sales and then aggregate it over all the sales team members. Or maybe you want to look at sales by year, right? You aggregate sales, so you sum sales and aggregate it over the year. And there are several other examples. So this is where SQL aggregate functions prove useful. So what is an aggregate function? An aggregate function is a function where the values of multiple rows are grouped together as inputs on certain criteria to form a single value of more significant meaning. So this is just you know what I said earlier, right? You have several rows of data and you want to group them together, maybe based on year, based on country, based on region, etc. Then you use aggregate functions in SQL to achieve this. Also, because these functions, they operate on a set of values, we often use the aggregate functions with the group by and having clauses. So we've not looked at group by or having, but we'll see that later in our sections. So the aggregate functions, right? You use this with the group by and the having clauses of your select statement. And then lastly, the group by clause, right? When you use your functions, it divides your results into groups of values, and then it then returns maybe a single value for each group. So let's say, for example, I'm grouping sales, right, by year. So for each year, I'll see the sum of sales, right? Each year, one value, each year, one value. So group by in this instance will help us to divide the results into these groups, right? And assign their values to each of these groups. So we'll see examples and it will make more sense in a bit. So what are examples of SQL aggregate functions? So you have examples like the mean, right? So you have average, you have mean, max, etc. So average returns the average, right, of a set of values. Counts, it counts the number of items in a set, right? So it returns the number of items in a set. Then you have max, it returns the maximum value in a set. Then you also have mean, mean returns the minimum value in a set. Then you have sum, these sums, so it can sum all the values, right, or distinct values. So here returns the sum of all the values. And average, sum, they work with numeric values. While count, max, mean can work with both numeric and non-numeric values, which we'll see in a bit. So let's look at some other important points. So aside the count function, right, other functions like sum, average, etc., they ignore null values. And you might ask, what are null values? So null values are simply so it's very easy to mistake null values with 0, right? But then when you say something is null, it means that it's not present at all. You don't have any values present for that value. So it's empty. There's nothing there at all. So 0 and null are very, very different. So for example, let's say you work in a firm that sells products, right? When you say a sale is zero for a particular transaction, it means that maybe you initiated the sale, right? But eventually the customer didn't buy the product, then you have zero there. But when you say null, null means that no sale happened at all. Like there was no attempt to make any sale, or the value is not just present, right? So it depends on the context. Nulls can be used in different ways, but null and zero, they are very, very different, not the same thing. So you have that in mind. Then you can use aggregate functions, right, as expressions in the following situations. One, when you select, right, when you're selecting something, so select, you can say select maximum sales or select maximum quantity, etc. Right? And then you can also use your aggregate functions like sum, min, max, right, in a having clause. So we'll see examples of these in a bit. But it's best to note that your min, max, sum, average, etc., right? You use them in select statements or in a having clause. You can't use order by or group by for an aggregate function. It's only used in select statements or in a having clause. And we'll look at this subsequently, it will make more sense. So another thing to note is that when you're summing a column or getting the average of a column, right? So they only work vertically on a column. Let's say I have 3 columns, right? I have column for quantity, column for sales, and then maybe column for unit price. If I do an average, for example, it will only average one column, right? I can't average across a row. I average what? One column. So they aggregate vertically. If you're doing something across a row, then you use simple arithmetic, which we've looked at in previous lessons. So let's look at the very first aggregate function, the count function. So as the name implies, right, it returns the number of rows that matches a specified criterion. And count does not consider rows that have null values. And I'll explain a bit. So the syntax for count, right? So select count, in brackets, you put the column name you want to count, right? From your table, and then you can put whatever conditions you want to specify, right? So at this juncture, I'll just share my screen to my SSMS. Let me share my full screen. So I'll go on to my SQL Server Management Studio. So currently I'm working on our patch and POSIX database we've used previously, right? So I'm working on the database, patch and POSIX, you can see here. So from the count function, right, is simply select, let's say, for example, I'm working with patch and POSIX, and I'm looking at my tables. Let's work with the others table, for example, right? So I want to count the total rows in the others table. So that's simply, I'll come on here, select count, right? And I can put star, count star. So count all the rows, right, in this table. Select count star from the others table, right? Once I have this, I can execute this. And you can see it returns what 6912, right? No column name, meaning that you can give it an alias. So I can say, for example, select count star, and I'll just give an alias, right? As rows count, for example, from others. When I run this now, you have what rows count, right? 6912. So we mentioned earlier that the count function, that it does not consider nulls, right? Nulls. So for this explanation, I'll go on to the database we used in the last section. DB employee, right? So when it comes to DB employee, look at the employees table, for example, right? Employees table. So I'm in DB employee, employees table, DB employee, right? Employees table. So let's look at the table and see what it contains. So if I do a select star in this table, select star from employees, right? Select star from employees. When I execute this, so you can see that there are some null values, right? So this row 4 for gender ID, you have what's null. So this means that for this person, possibly we don't have the data available, right? So you just put null there in this instance. So I'm not using the pattern database because it's a clean database. There are no null values there. All the values are valid. But for this example, we'll have a null row, right? So let's do the same thing here now. So I'll do select count star. So if you look at this table, right, you have 5 rows, 1, 2, down to row 5. You have 5 rows. When I do select count star, for example, I should get 5 as my result. Select count star from employees, right? I execute this, and you have what, 5, right? That's number of rows, 5. So back to the previous results, right? You saw that the gender ID column had no values, right, in row 4. So if I do select count instead of star now, right? Star means all the rows. Let me just choose one column. You know what? Let me do that somewhere below here. So I have select count star. Start from this. Then let me just do this below here. Select count. So I'll do 2 examples. Now I'll do employee ID, right? So let's do employee ID. Employee ID as, let me just do this, employee ID count. So we'll see the results clearly. Employee ID count. And then count gender ID. Let me zoom in. And then count gender ID as gender ID count. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to from employees. So I'm trying to show us like the difference between when you have nulls and when there are no nulls. So for this column, right, employee ID, there are no nulls. When I count this, I expect to get 5, right? But gender ID, you have one null value there. And we said that the count function, right, it does not consider nulls when counting. So when I run this, I expect to have what, 4 as the result, right? So let's run this and see. So I'm saying count the employee ID column, which is this, right? Employee ID column. And also count the gender ID column, which is this, right? That's this. Let me execute this and see my results. Execute. So if you look at the results, right? Employee ID count is what, 5. White gender ID is 4. So that one null value was not counted, right? So you can see that the count function, right? It does not count null values. It counts only the non-null values. And just to touch on null before I go on to the next function. So for null, right, in SQL, if you're trying to maybe isolate values that are null, I could say, for example, select star, right, all the rows from employees table where, so gender ID, right, gender ID is null, right? So in SQL, this gender ID, sorry, gender ID. So in SQL, right, for null, you don't say equal to null. It's null. That's the syntax. It's null. So I'm saying return all the rows where gender ID is null, right? So when I execute this, and you see the results of this query executes. So you can see that that's one row, right, where you have null values was returned. If I want the reverse, right, so I want to say return all the rows that gender ID is not null, right? I'll just come on here and I'll put what is not there, is not null. So I'm saying return all the rows where gender ID has actual values is not null, right? When I execute this now, so you see it returns the 4 rows where gender ID has values, right? So that's just something to add also on the null syntax. So back to my slide, right? We've seen how the count function works. So it does not consider rows that have null values, right? So let's go on to the next function, the sum function. So the sum function returns total sum of a numeric column. So it simply sums up the values of a numeric column. And then sum, right, it ignores some null values. So when you're summing, right, it does not consider rows that are null. It only sums the non-null values. The syntax, similar to the count function, right? Select sum of the column name from table where condition, so you can filter by any condition you want, right? So let's see some questions that will help us better understand how the sum function works. So the first question says we should find total amount of poster quantity paper ordered in the orders table, right? So just um, to refresh, right? Let's look at the orders table and see what it contains. So I'll do a select star from orders table. So I'm simply returning all the columns and rows, right, in this table. So I execute this. So this is my orders table, right? You have the ID, account ID, or called at. This is simply the number of quantity, right, for standard paper, quantity for gloss paper, quantity for poster paper, right? When you add this together, you get total, right? This is the amount for standard. This is the amount in dollars for gloss. This is the amount in dollars for poster. When you add this, you get total amount in dollars, right? So now, yeah, asking us, right, from the question, we are asked to get the total amount of poster paper ordered in the orders table. So you want just one value, right? It's good to know what your end result should look like. So find total amount of poster quantity paper ordered in the orders table. You want just one value, right? Just one value. So I want to get total sum of all the poster paper that's been ordered. So I come back to my database. So what I want is I want to sum up all the values in this column, right? Total quantity of poster paper has been ordered. I want to sum up all these values here. So I'll simply come on here, right, to my queries, and I'll say select. So I want to sum. So I'll say select the sum of what column now? Poster quantity, right? So I'll come here and type in the column name, poster quantity. From what table? From the orders table, right? So I'm saying what sum up all the values here and give me just one result. So when I execute this, execute. So you can see, right, it's telling me that what so far we have what 723,646 units of poster paper that have been ordered. And this column name, we could fix this, right? Give it an alias as called is poster quantity sum, right? So when I execute this now, I have the correct column, postal quantity sum 723646. So this is for question 1, right? And if you have any questions, kindly type in the chat, so I'll attend to it. So for question 1, right, total amount of postal paper, that's straightforward. Select sum of the column from the table, right? The next one says, find the total dollar amount of sales using the total amount USD in the orders table. This is simply telling us what the total sales that the company has done, right, so far. And from the table we saw earlier, right, you see that when you do select star from others, right, the column, the very last column, this column here, right, very last column is showing you what total amount, right, made. When you add this plus this plus this, right, you get this. So across all the paper types, right, this is the amount that we made for each transaction. So now they're asking us, right, to calculate what is the total amount across all transactions, right? So you want just one value, total amount made so far. So simply, you're asked to sum up this column, right? Sum this column up and give me the results. That's what I asked to do. So that's also straightforward. Just edit this query, right? Instead of postal quantity, I'll replace this with total amount USD. That's this. And we can execute this query. So it's giving me 2 results, right? I went to the second one. So these are 2 different queries. So you're not confused, right? 2 different queries. So when I run this, right, I have 2 tables. This first table here is for what's our second query here, right? Second table here is for the very first. This first table is for the first query, sorry. Sum this, right? Second table now is for what? Select star from others. But I don't want the second one. I want just the first one. So I'll highlight this, right? And one, just that one. And you have our results, right? So we just rename this to the correct thing, the alias of this query. This total for this sum total amount USD, right? So across all transactions, total sum is around this 23,141,511.83 dollars. So that's for that question, right? That's straightforward. So let's see next question. So it says, find the total amount for each individual order that was spent on standard and gloss paper in the orders table. This should give a dollar amount for each order in the table. So let me explain what this question is asking us to do, right? So let's say, for example, we have 1,000 orders, right? And you have different paper types. So you're asking us now, right? For each order, right? It means that what you want to get the total for standard and gloss paper. So let's say for the first transaction, for standard, it was $1. For gloss, it was $1. You add what? 1 plus 1 together, and you get 2 for that one, right? The next transaction, row 2, it was $2 each. You do what? 2 plus 2, you get 4. So it means that what if you have 1,000 rows of data, right? Your results will also be 1,000 rows. And for each row, you will sum up what? The standard and gloss paper. So the difference now is that in this case, we won't do what? The aggregation. It's just what? All the rows in the table, you return that, but you compute what? The standard plus gloss paper amount. So let's do the example so it becomes clearer. So these are our table originally, right? We have about 6,912 rows. So you're asking us, right? So for each row, we'll add what standard plus poster. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's standard plus poster, right? It's standard plus gloss. Yeah, standard plus gloss. So for each row, right, you do what standard plus gloss. So my results will be what the same number of rows, 6,912. It means that what we are not aggregating, just return the same number of rows. But instead, right, you have what this plus this as a result, this plus this, right? So in SQL, that's just straightforward. I come on here and I say select. So what's the column again? Standard and poster, if I'm not mistaken. Standard and gloss. Okay. So I come on here and say select standard amount USD. That's column name. Plus gloss amount USD from the others table. Right. So that's what we just simply do. So sum up standard plus gloss, right? And then return the sum for all the rows. So when I run this, right, my results should also give me what the same number of rows I have here, 6,912, right? So let's execute this. Execute this. Let me give an alias as once I execute this, right, this is my result set. So for the first row, sum standard plus gloss, this is the result, right? Just like that. So if you look at my results, the exact number of rows, right? 6,912. So if you note the difference, right? The two examples we did before now, we just summed across the column and returned just one result. But here, right, there's no sum function here. So there's no aggregation. It's just what's computing across each row and returning the results. So note the difference, right, between these two examples. So let's go back to my slide. The next question says, find the standard amount USD per unit of standard quantity paper. Your solution should use both an aggregation and a mathematical operator. So find the standard amount USD per unit of standard quantity paper. So what this means is that your result set is just one value, right? What's the when you divide total amount in USD by quantity, right? What's the result you get? So you aggregate total amount in USD, then you also aggregate the quantity, right, of paper. Then you divide them and get just one value. That we're asking us to do. So it says what we should use both aggregation and also a mathematical operator. So the two fields I'm working with is standard amount USD and standard quantity paper. So let's go back to my SQL Server Management Studio. You have to do so I'll show what I'm trying to achieve. So I run this query. And here you can see, right, you're trying to what? Divide this, right, by this. But now we'll first sum up this whole column, right? Let's say I sum this up together. I get 10, right? Then I'll also come here and sum this up together also. I get 1. I'll then divide what? 10 by 1. I'll then get 10 as the result. That's what I'm trying to do, right? So we'll first aggregate and then divide with an operator. So for this, I'll simply come on here and select. So I'll do a sum, right? Sum first. So I'll sum up. I'm dividing amount USD standard by quantity standard. So I'll first sum this up, right? So sum up the standard amount USD, right? When I sum this up, I'll then divide this, right? An operator. So I'm dividing, I'll put a dividing operator, that's a slash, right? Sum this up and divide this by what? This column, right? So I will sum this up also. So I'll say sum up standard. I think that's quantity, right? QTY. Yeah, QTY. Right. From others. So this is what I want to do, right? I can just call this as, so what's the field you're giving to? It told us to find the standard amount USD per unit of quantity paper. So I can just give it a name. I could just say amount standard amount per quantity. Yeah, cool. So this is what I want to achieve, right? Sum up this amount column, sum up the quantity column, and then divide. So I expect to have just one result. Let me see. I'll attend to that now. So execute this. And you see, right, I have just one result. That's 4.99000, right? So 4.99, that's the result. And while we're at it, let me just add something to this. So let's say, for example, you can see that this is about this is about 6 decimal places. In SQL, let's say I want to just return just one decimal place. That's 4.9, right? I'll just add a round function in front of my function. So I'll put a round here, right? So I'll say round this whole calculation here, right? Once this whole stuff to, so run this whole stuff, right? This sum, blah, 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 I did here, right? Round this up to on the smart place, right? So once I do this, I execute the results. .9, I see to the smart places. So 4.99, then you take one to from 9 to 4, that's 5. So I have a question from Gamma who's asking if we run select sum standard amount USD standard quantity from others, would this work? So if I copy this query, let's do it. This won't work, right? So let's right? So sum of this column, right? So the sum function in SQL, it just takes in one column. So you can't pass in two columns into the sum function. And you can see it's already giving me an error, right? You see this red line under this. So if I highlight this and run the query, right, you see the error it returns, telling me that the sum function requires one argument, right? But I'm passing in two arguments. So this won't give us the right result. So what we did right is the right way. We'll come on here. You first sum up the standard amount here is the first, right? And then divide that by what? Small quantity. That gives us our result. So running this, right? You have just one value. And that's what I want. So this works perfectly well. Let's go back to the next question. I think we have one more question here. Okay, that's all. Okay, before I leave here, right, let me just add one more thing to this, right? So you can return the sum from multiple columns, right? So I could say select sum I could say select sum of standard quantity, for example. I could say also sum of poster quantity, for example, as poster, as poster sum. I could go on and on, right? But let me just do this too. So when I run this, right, execute this, you see it turns out two columns, right? Standard sum, which is this, right? And it also returns what? Poster sum, which is this. So you could add more, you could add 10 columns. As far as they're numeric, right? They would work. But if, for example, I put in a column that is not numeric, so let's say I put in sum of the others table, which column here is not numeric? Let me run select star from others. So see. So you have a date column or called at. So let's try this. I prefer okay, you know what? Let me use a text column. That'll be a perfect example. So I'll use the accounts table now from accounts table, from accounts, right? So this is the accounts table. Let's start from accounts. This is the account table, right? You have this column, name. These are all text. So if I run, for example, sum of the name column, right? As name sum, for example. So I'm saying sum of the name column, right, in the accounts table. But this is text, right? And from what we explained, sum only works with numeric columns. When I execute this, let's see what happens. So it's telling me what's incorrect syntax near name, right? So the fact is that sum does not work with text function. Select star from accounts. Try another column, websites. These also text to websites. Yeah, this is what I want to see. So it's telling me that what's operand data type varchar is invalid for some operator, right? So you're saying that what's the column you're trying to work with websites is of the type varchar, that's a variable character. and it does not work with the sum operator, it's invalid for sum operator. But if it was numbers, right, it would work perfectly. So that's for the sum function. So let's go on to the next one, right? Min and max functions. So min function returns the lowest value in a set of non-null values. So just like the sum function, right? Min ignores null values. So it returns the lowest value in a set of non-null values. Max is the converse. It returns the highest value, right? Then functionally, min and max, they are similar to counts because they work with numeric and also non-numeric columns. Unlike sum, they only work with numeric columns, right? Min and max, it works with both numeric and non-numeric columns. So for example, if you say min of a date column, it returns the earliest date. You say max, it returns the most recent date. You will say min of a letter, it returns the what? Maybe A, you have A to Z, right? When you say min of that column, it returns A. When you say max, it returns Z, right? Then for numbers, if you have 1 to 10, when you say max, it returns 10. You say min, it returns 1, just like that, right? So it works with both numeric and non-numeric columns. The syntax, right, similar to what we've been doing so far. Select either min or max, right, from the column, from your table, and put your condition. So let's see some examples, some questions. So this says, when was the earliest order ever placed? Only return the date. So when was the earliest order ever placed? Only return the date. So I'll just, so the dates, right, for orders, that's in the orders table. So let's start from orders. So when I execute this, right, this is my table, right? The date is which column now? The occurred at column, right? That's date. Occurred at column, that's the date. So you're asked now, when was the earliest order ever placed? When was the earliest order ever placed? Right. So for this, we are using the min function, right? MIN. So what's the minimum date from our table we are being asked? So for this, I'll just come on here and say, select min of the dates, right, occurred at. From others table. So the minimum date, right, from others table. When I execute this, so I could just say as earliest date. Execute this, right. So you can see, right, it says the 2013 December 4th at this time. So 2013 December 4th. That's the earliest date from our table, right? And that's simply using what? Min of my date column, right? From a table. It returns that value. Then let's go to the next question. So this says, let's do the same thing now without using the main function, right? So what we've learned so far, can we use it to return the same results, but without using the main function? Yeah. So I have a question from Adewale. Can min-max work for name column? Yeah, like I said, min-max, right? It works with both numeric and non-numeric columns. So min-max would work perfectly well with names. I'll come to that now. Just give me a second. So for question 2, right? We want to do the same thing we just did now, but without using min, right? So in previous sections, right, we've looked at the select top and also order by clauses, right? So if I say select occurred at, for example, occurred at, right, from the orders table. it returns all the dates, right, for my table. So I said what select occurred at, right, from others. When I run this, right, it returns all the dates, right, for my table. But you can see it's not ordered, right? It's just 2015, 2016. So it's not ordered. From our earlier results, the earliest it was what 2013, December 4th, right? So now I want to do the same thing without using min, right? So in previous section, we've looked at the order by clause. So I can say order by, right? Order by occurred at, right? So order by this column. And remember what was said, right? By default, he orders, right, from smallest to highest, right? But if you want to do it the other way, then you put what? This keyword, DESC, right? Descending order. So by default, right, he orders, right, from the earliest in this instance to the latest. So when I run this query now, right, when I run this now, I expect this result now to be ordered from what's the earliest, from the earliest date, right? That's 2013, 1204, down to the latest date. So let me execute this and see if that works. So execute this. And you can see my result set, right? It's now ordered from what's the smallest to the largest. But we are not done, right? Our main function return just one result, this first row. So how can I return just this first row from the results? This year we use what? The select top statement, right? So select, I'll say top one, right? So the top one row from this result set. So I execute this. And so you can see, right? Both results are the same thing. This and this are the same thing. This result here, right, gives me what? This 2013 1204, right? And this result here also, the exact same thing, right? So I simply what chose the dates, order by dates in assigning order, and return the very first row there. But you can see, right, this first query is cleaner, right, and shorter than this one, right? Yeah, I'm combining top order by, but this just what's the main function. So that's for that question, right? Let's go on to the next. Okay, let me see. I had a question earlier. So he said, can min max work for name column in others? So let's try that. So the others table does not have a name, right? But accounts has name. So let's use account table for this. So select, just to show you what the table contains, select star from accounts. All right. So when I execute this, I highlight this and execute this. So you have a name column, right? Name column. So let's do this now. Let's do the mean of name. Select mean of name, right? From the accounts table. So remember what was said, right? When you say mean of name, so you have A to Z, for example, mean will return what's the one that's close to A, right? A. Then if you have A to Z, when you say max, it returns the Z. So I expect to have what a name that's starting with A, for example, should be my result. So let me execute this and see what my result contains. Yeah, so it returns a number, right? 3M. So as minimum name, let me use this. Execute, right? And what am I doing? Control X. Okay. So it returns 3M as a result, right? So it means that what so ideally, right, when you're writing names, right, numbers will come first before you have letters. So you have a number here, in a name that has numbers in a 3M. So this is the minimum name, right? 3M. Then if I do a max, for example, it should be close to Z or thereabout, maybe ZY or something. So max of name, right? When I run this, so max of name, right? Let's see what it gives us. So I highlight this and execute. Yeah, so this is a Y, right? So it means there's no Z in our results. This is the name, Young Brands, right? It should be max name, not mean. So Young Brands, right? So you see that mean max, it works for dates, works for numbers, it also works for letters. So let's go to the next question. So this says, when did the most recent web events occur? So let's go to the web events table. So you have a table called web events, right? That's this table here, web events table. And if you look here, right, you have ID, you have account, you have occurred at and channel. Occurred at is what's the date that the event in this table occurred, right? So you're asked, when did the most recent events occur? In other words, what's the latest date in this column occurred at, right? So let me just clear all this. So select star from web events. Right, so let's see what table contains. So when I execute this, it contains 4 columns, right? ID, account ID, or call that which we are working with, right? We are asked to find what the most recent date that an event occurred. So it means that in this column, right, what's the most recent date here? So that's simply, I just come in here and do a max, right? Max of what? Or call that. And when I execute this, right, I expect to have the maximum dates. And it says what? 2017-010, right? I always forget to do this. And alias as max date. So 2017-0101, right? This is the most recent date that an event occurred. Then let's go to the next question. We are now asked to do the same thing, right? Without an application. So we return the same results without using the max function. So this is very similar to what we just did now for the mean, right? So we just come on here and do select top 1, right? Top 1 or call that. From the web events table. Yeah. And here now, we'll order by, right? Order by the data, I call that column. But now we want the maximum, right? So order in descending order. So let me do it step by step. In case you didn't get it first and you get it now. So let me take this off and take this off also. Right. So when I run this first bit, select the date column from web event. So when I run this first bit, you get this result. Right? You get all the dates, but there is no order. It's just random, right? 2015, 2016, 2015, just random, right? But now to make it ordered, right, I'll then add the order by clause. So I'll say order by, right, the date column, I'll call that, right? So when I run this now, you then see what is now ordered, right? Execute this. It's not ordered, but now it's ordered what in ascending order from smallest to largest, right? But this is not what we want. We asked to get the most recent. So I'll add the keyword, right? Descending DSC. Once I add this now, I can then execute this. And note, right, previously this 2013. So the order will change now. If then reverse. When I scroll down, for example, 2013, right? And what's the latest date here? 2017, right? So what I can do is we then flip it now. So when I execute this query to send in, I execute this. So you see the order is now changed now. You now have what 2017 at the top, right? And when you scroll down now, you see 2013 that was at the top previously. So we've changed the order of arrangement, right? You now have 2013 at the bottom here. So now this is not the final result, right? Our final result should be this, right? Just one value, 2017 0101, right? That this value is up here, not want to return. For this, right, in SQL Server, you just put what? Top one. So I'm saying what? Return just the top one row, right? Which is this row here. Return this row here. So when I execute this now, you now have what? Just one row returned, right? And these two are the same thing. And that checks out. So this for the min and max aggregation questions. So let's look at the average function. So the average function, right, it returns the average value of a numeric column. This is just like sum. It only works with numeric columns. So count, min, max, they work with both numeric and non-numeric. Average, sum, they only work with numeric columns, right? So you can note that somewhere. And it also ignores null values. Syntax, right? Average column from table, right? Condition, just like the other functions we've seen previously. Let's see example, right? So we're asked to find the mean, that's the average, right, amount spent per order on each paper type, as well as the mean amount of each paper type purchased per order. So simply we are asked, so from what we've seen, right, we have three paper types: standard, postal, gloss, right? We have to find the average of their quantities and also the average of their amount in dollars. So that's straightforward. So I come back to my SQL Star Management Studio, right? Let's look at the order table once more to see what it contains. Select star from orders, right? And I execute this. So this is what my table looks like, right? We have to find the average of this column, quantity of standard paper, this column, quantity of gloss, this column, quantity of poster. These are three paper types: standard, gloss, poster. And also, right, the average of this column, the dollars amount for standard, dollar amount for gloss, dollar amount for poster. So we are returning 6 values, right? Average of this, average of this, average of this, and average of this 3 also. So that's pretty straightforward. Just come in here and say select AVG, right? That's the syntax, AVG, average. So I can put the first column, standard, quantity, and I can say as average, standard, quantity. I can say the same way also, average, poster quantity as average, poster quantity, and the same way, average, gross quantity as average, Plus quantity. Similarly, the same for the dollar amount, right? So it's called standard amount USD. So I'll come on here and put that standard amount USD as average standard amount. And let me just show something quickly, right? So if, for example, you're typing, I don't know the names of the columns, right? You can also drag and drop. So I'll say average. So next is what? Postal amount USD, right? So in SSMS, right? What I could do is I could just come on here and drag the column. So this is the table, others table. This is the others table. So I come on here, open this up, right? I want to put in the postal amount USD. So I come on here, I'll just drag this, right? In the wrong code. So I come here and drag this postal amount USD. And it's not the stuff. So I come and drag this, right? I put that here. Yeah. And then say as average postal amount. And then lastly, average of gloss, right? Same also, you come here and drag it, right? I put that there also. And you can see as average gloss amounts. From what table now, right? From the others table. From others table. So once I have this, I can execute, right? I expect to have 6 results for all the averages. Execute this. And you can see, right, across all the values, standard paper, postal paper, gloss, these are the averages. And in dollars also, these are the averages, right? So you can tell at a glance, right, on the average, standard amount gives us the most revenue, followed by gloss, followed by postal. On average also, right, standard sells more units, followed by gloss, followed by postal. So these are things that aggregations help you with, right? They help you provide insights. When you're trying to analyze data, you aggregate data, right? You find averages, you find sums, you group by and stuff like that. So that's the average function, right, in SQL. So let's go on to the next slide, right? Let's look at the group by clause. So the group by clause, this is useful when you're trying to aggregate data within subsets, right? So for example, you have different accounts, you have different regions, you have different sales reps, right? You want to aggregate data. You want to look at, I have maybe 4 regions. I want to look at sales across those 4 regions. Which region has the most sale? Which one has the least sale? Which one has the highest average sale or stuff like that, right? In SQL, the group by clause helps you with these kinds of aggregations. So it helps you group, for example, different accounts, different regions, different sales reps, etc. So the group by statement, right, is often used with aggregate functions. So the counts, the max, the mean, sum, average, they all work with the group by functions, right, to help you analyze data efficiently. So when you're working with aggregations, right, any column that is not an aggregation will be in the group by clause. So if you have mean, max, average, for example, any other column that you include here, right, that is not aggregated, it should be in the group by clause. and I'll explain in a bit when we do examples. And lastly, the group by is always between the where and other by clause, right? So it comes after the where clause, but before the other by clause. So you have an ordinal arrangement, right? An order. When you're writing your queries, the syntax is that the group by comes after the where clause, or it comes before the other by clause. If you mix up the arrangements, you get errors in your code. So note that, right? Group by comes after the where clause, but before the other by clause. So it's great for us to familiarize ourselves with the ERD one more time, right? So we have 5 tables: web events, accounts, orders, region, and sales rep, right? And web events is linked to accounts, right? Via the account ID to ID, right? The same way account is linked to orders by account ID also, account ID to account ID, right? Same way account is linked to sales rep, right? Via the sales rep ID sales rep to account sales rep ID. And lastly, sales reps is linked to region via the region ID, right? Region ID to sales reps region ID, right? That's how the tables are related. So let's look at examples, right, with the group by clause. So one thing I'd like you to practice, right? When you see a question you're trying to answer, right, with SQL, you ask yourself, do I need to aggregate this with a group by clause? Or can I answer this without aggregations, right? Once you practice and master that, that will help you to be more efficient when working with SQL. So let's some questions and we'll figure out if we can use aggregations or we can do it with simple basic SQL syntax. So this first question says, which account by name place the earliest order? And then you're told that our results, right, should have the account name and the date of the order. So which account, right, place the earliest order? So I'll just like type in the chat, right? Do you think we can answer with basic SQL, or we need to do a group by or use aggregations? Just type in the chat. I want to know. Do you think we can answer this question with basic SQL, or we need to use an application to answer this? So Gamma says we can use the group by. Okay, so before I go on to answer this question, right, let's try to understand the question very well. So we want to get the accounts that place the earliest order, right? So we are consider our result is considering just only one account, right? Only one account we want to see. Who's the account? Who's the person? Who's the account that made the very first order in our data set, right? So if you are asked for all the accounts, what was their earliest order? It means now you are what? You are aggregating over all the accounts to return their earliest orders. It means that for account A, you show us the earliest order. Account B, you show us the earliest order for account C, like that, right? But in this case, you have only one earliest order. What was the very first order in this data set? And who made that order, right? So in this instance, right, you just do a simple basic SQL, right? You return all your data order by date and return the account for that date. You don't need to group by, right? So try to understand the scenario, right? If you are asked for all the accounts, show us their earliest order. In that instance now, you're aggregating over all the accounts. Here now you do aggregations, right? But here, you want just one result. What was the earliest order? Who made that order? I don't need to aggregate over the whole data set. I'll just get the earliest date and find who's the person that made that order. That's all. So in this instance now, we can do basic SQL, right? We don't need to aggregate over the whole account to get the result. So let's see how we can do that in SQL. So first things first, right? This might require us to join tables together. Want to return to results, account name and date of the order. Back to our ARD, right? Account name is this account name, right? And these other dates occur that, right? It means that we need to join tables together. We'll join the accounts table and the other tables together via account ID, other account ID, right? So back to SSMS, right? We want to result account name and occur at. So I'll say select so I'll say select. So I'm working with two tables, right? Order and accounts. So I think I've shown how to alias tables, right? So I'll say O. When you see O is for the order table, right? O dot what? Let's do the name first, account name. So A dot name, right? Where A is the alias for accounts table, comma, and I'll say O dot occurred at. And O is the alias for the order table, right? So I'll say from orders. And currently, right, this O does not have any meaning currently until I then give these orders, right, an alias as O, right? So I'm saying that what's in this query, right, wherever you see O, it represents what's the orders table, right? And you can see, if I take it off now, you have an error here, right? You see that line here? When I put that O now, the line goes off. So it has picked up that command, right? Use the O as alias for orders. So this means what? Orders dot occur that column. That's what it means, right? So I'll say for this table, right? Join the accounts table. And here I'll say what? I'll put what? A, right? Account table A. And as soon as I put this, right? This has now picked that up, right? A, this accounts table dot name column, right? Join accounts A. And how are they joined, right? Account ID is equal to orders dot account ID, right? Join accounts A on account table dot ID is equal to orders table dot account ID, right? That's the way they are joined in our table. And just to show you again, right? Back to our diagram. Account table dot ID, right, is equal to orders dot account ID, right? That is that thing we just did now. So when I come back here, right, if I run this query now, right, it's showing you what the name and the dates, right? Name and date. But now I want to get what the earliest dates and then the account for that earliest date, right? So simple, we just come here and order by, right? Order by what the date or call that, right? When I execute this now, this is the earliest date, right? This is the account for that date. But now I want just one result. So I'll put what's top one, right? So top one. And this, the answer to our question, right? The name of the account is what? Dish Network on this date, right? Just give you a name as account. This name does not really make sense as account, yeah. So accounts occur that, right? So I hope this makes sense to us. This is the account, this is the dates, this is the earliest order made, and this is the account that made that order, right? But if you're asked now, right, for example, that for all the accounts, what was the earliest date they made an order, right? Here now you then aggregate. So I can now say what select accounts, right? I can now say what calculate the minimum date, right? So for every account, find their minimum date. A dot name as accounts. So I'm saying what for every name, right? For all the accounts here, find their minimum dates, right? When I run this, I'll get an error. And okay, let's see. I'll get an error because we are told that any column that is not in the aggregation, right, should be in the group by clause. So this is aggregated, but this is not aggregated, right? So I need to put name in a group by clause. So I'll come on here and then say, okay, group my results now, group by a dot name, right? Yeah, so we said that group by comes before order by, right? Where group by, then order by. So group by comes first, and then order by comes next. So once I have this now, and execute this, we don't need this actually. Execute. Yeah, cool. So here now you can see for every account, right? I can see the earliest, the very first date they made an order. So this really aggregates. So I want to see for every account which day did they make their first order. This is when you do what's called by, right? But if the original question says what, just show us the very first order that was made and who made that order, right? In that case, there's no need to aggregate or make any aggregations. Let's go on to the next question so we don't waste time on this. Next one says, find total sales in USD for each account. We should have two columns, right? Total sales for each company orders and the company name. So in this case now, do you think we should aggregate or not? You want to have what the sales for every account. So each account, you want to show the sales for that account. Would we aggregate or we don't need to aggregate? What do you guys think? So because of time, right? So this is just let me see. Yeah, says group by. They want to group by. Yeah, that's correct, Adewale. So we need to aggregate, right? Because we are doing it for all the accounts. For every account, we want to see total sales for every account. So that's the account column, right? And we want to just sum the total sales. So I'll just say sum of what? Total sales. That's O dot total amount USD. Right? As total sales. Right? From others, oh, join this, right? So this is my query actually, right? So I'm saying return all the accounts names and then sum all the amounts in dollars, right? From these tables And then we are told that what any column that is not in the aggregation, right, should be what put in the group by clause, right? So we are putting what a dot name in the group by clause. And once I run this now, you can see for every account, right? Total sales for every account, total sales, right? So that's the result for that. And the next question says, via what channel did the most recent web event occur? Which account was associated with this event? Query should return three values: date, channel, and account name. For this, do you think we'll aggregate or not? We want to get the most recent web event, and then what channel made that event? What account was associated with that event? Do you think we would aggregate or not? So first things first, let's understand how those tables are connected. So we are told to return three values: the date of the event, the channel for the event, and the account name, right? Back to my diagram, this is the web event table, right? This is the channel, and this is the dates. We also want to return the account name, which is this account name. So we are working with two tables: accounts table and web events table. How are they joined? Web events account ID to account ID, right? So once you know this, the rest is straightforward. So for this, right, for this similar to the very first question we answered, right? So look at the question very well. You want one result. I don't want across the whole channel. I want just one channel. Which dates was the most recent web event, right? And which channel made that event? So I don't need to show for each channel what is their latest date. No, I want just one result. What was the most recent date? And which channel did that date? Which account was associated with that date? Finish. So for these, right, I'll use basic SQL syntax to achieve this. So I come back to my query and I need three results, right? I need the web channel, I need the date and the account name. So I'll say select, let's use W for the alias, W dot channel. I'll use A for accounts, A dot name as accounts. And I'll use the date, right? Or call that. So I'm joining two tables, right? I'm joining web events table from web events W, right? Join accounts A on w.account ID is equal to a.id. So once I run this, let's see our results sets first. So I have all the channels, the accounts, the dates, right? Now, want to know the most recent dates. So all I do, I will order by date, right? Recent dates. So I order by dates. That's w.occur that. So this 2015, right? When I run this now, it's now ordered, right? By most recent date. So I'll put the sending here. So most recent dates, I'll put the sending. Currently showing me the earliest dates, but I don't want this. So I'll put the keyword BSC, right? When I run this, it's not showing me recent dates, right? But I want just the first date, right? I'll come here and put what's top one. So I say what's top one when I execute this, right? This is the channel organic. This is the account name, Paulina Healthcare, and this is the date, right? 2017 01 2017 0101. Start with that question. If you have questions, you can type in the chat. So 1, 2, 3. Next question. Find the total number of times each type of channel from the web events table was used. You should have two columns, the channel and number of times channel was used. So this is straightforward, right? Select star from web events. So let me show you what we're trying to do. This is our table, right? This channel now. So we want to see for each channel type, how many times did it occur in this table, right? So simply I'll do what? Select channel, I'll do a count star, count all the rows, and then group by channel, right? That way, for each channel, it will show me the count for that channel, right? So let's see how we can do that. So I'll say select channel, and then the count, right? So I could say what counts. So you could put a column name, right? Count channel or count star. Either of these works, right? So don't get confused. Count star means what? Count all the rows, right? Count channel also works also. Anyone you do works. I can put channel here, count channel, for example. That also works, right? So count star. And this simply counts, right? Yeah, counts. Channel, right? Event. So here, right? If I run this now, I'll get errors, right? So it says what? Column channel is invalid, right? Because it's not in the aggregate function or the group by clause. Remember what was said, right? Any column that is not in the application, we must put it in the group by clause, right? So come here and then put channel now in the group by clause. So group by channel. And this should give us the accurate results. Execute this. So you can see, right? For each channel, I can see number of occurrence, right? For that channel. So that's for that question. This one says, who was the primary contact associated with the earliest web events? So this is just the same thing with first and third questions, right? You get the earliest event and then find who was the primary contact. No need for aggregations here. So before we do this, let's see what tables you're working with. Primary contact and then earliest web events. So I think this should be the web events and account table. So contact, that's primary person of contact, like primary POC. And then earliest, that's the date, right? Web events, that's date or call that. Working with two tables, web events table and accounts table. And we'll join by what? Account ID web events table to ID in accounts table. So once we have these rights, I think we can write the queries easily. So I'll come back to SSMS I'm working with two tables, right? I need two columns, primary person of contact, and then the date. I'll do select. So I'm working with account table, primary person of contact, primary, I think primary POC, that's how it's written. Let me confirm. So accounts table. Yeah, primary POC, yeah, that's correct. Primary POC, comma, and then web events table. The date, right? The date. That's what call that. And just give me a second. Let me confirm the question. So we are asked, was the earliest? So order in ascending order. What's the earliest date? So I could say from the web events table, W, join the accounts table A, join account A on A.id equal to W.account ID, right? And I'll then order by the date, or call that. And I want just a first row. So I'll do top one. Once I have the execute this, right? So this is the earliest date, right, for an event, and this is primary POC associated Liana Hawker. That's the answer. Liana Hawker. And then this question says, what was the smallest order placed by each account in terms of total USD? Provide just two columns, account name and total USD. So this is straightforward, right? We need two columns. The account name, that's the account table. The smallest order, that's in USD, that's the orders table. And then we just so here now, right? This is a clear case of aggregation. When you see by each account, right? By each account, it means for every account, you're computing its total amount USD. So it means that what you aggregate the sales over all the accounts in that table, right? So here now we're aggregating. We are then asked to order from smallest dollar amounts to largest dollar amounts. So let's come back here and run this query. So we are working with the accounts table and orders table. We want two columns. Account name, right? And the amount in USD. Let me confirm quickly. The account name. So select A.name as account. And then O.total amount USD. From orders O, join accounts A. So group by comes first before order, right? So first I'll group by the account name. So you might ask, can I also group by this area's name? Let's try and see if it works. So group by account. And then order by. So you said order from smallest to largest, right? So order by to amount USD. Execute it and see. So it says incorrect syntax near the word group, right? So let's use the actual column name, A.name. Right, this, let's replace this. Looks like the alias didn't work. So let's put the actual column name, a.name. Okay, I think that's not the issue actually. We didn't put the on. Join accounts a how on a.id equal to o.account ID. I think that's to give us an error actually. Let me do this. Yeah. So it says invalid column name account. So I'll come on here and put the actual column name, account a.name. So when I run this now, I expect this to give me the actual results. So execute this. Why am I making these mistakes? So we want to get we are aggregating actually, right? So we need to sum this column. So once we get the sum of this across all the accounts, I think that's the question, right? For all the accounts, what is the total amount USD? Okay, what's the smallest order? That's mean, not sum. So the minimum. So for each account, what's the minimum order they placed? That's mean, right? So I want to know for every account. So account A, if he made 10 orders, what was the least amount that he made for an order? Right? That's what we're trying to do. So for this, right, across all the accounts, we aggregate and find their minimum amount in USD. That's the question. So account name, mean of this, right? And then you group by the name. And then they also order from smallest to largest. So order by this. And this should give us the actual result we envisage. Order by this. So you can see that most accounts, right, they have zero amounts ordered. It's interesting to note. So most accounts they have zero amounts, right, for some others. And then you now have 16, 29, 29, 40, with that it increases and goes upwards. So let's look at one last question. So if you have questions, you can type in the chat in case you're not clear what you're doing. So this says find the number of sales reps in each region. Final table should have two columns, the region and number of sales reps. Then order from fewest reps to most reps. So let's look at tables we are working with. Find number of sales reps in each region. When you look here, right, number of sales reps. So for each region name, you count number of sales reps in that region. So you're working with these two tables, sales reps table and region table, right? We'll simply count all the sales rep and then group by the region. And here, right, we'll join via region ID in sales rep table to ID in region table. So for this, I could simply do, I'm working with two tables, region and sales rep. So select, I want two results, right? Region, I wrote on name column region table. I could say as region. And I also want the number of sales rep. So I can see count. You could do a count star. Count star could work, right? Count star should work. So count star, count all the rows as sales rep count. So count all the rows in the table. So when you join, count all the rows in the table. And then from, let's do region first. From region R, join the sales rep table. Sales rep S on region.id equal to sales rep.region ID. And here we'll then group by the region name. Group by region, group by R name, and then order by. Let's execute it and see what it gives us. So off my head, I know there are 50 sales reps. So 9 plus 10, 19, plus 10, 29, plus 21, 50. Yeah, that checks out. So this is accurate, right? Midwest 9, Southwest 10, West 10, and Northeast 21. Order from smallest to largest, right? So this is accurate, 9, 10, 10, and then 21. So you could see for each region, the number of sales reps, right? So I think we'll stop here for today. Any questions before we round up? So it looks like what we did is clear to everyone. That's great to know. So, okay, I think I have a question. Let me see. Okay, none from me. Yeah, good. Great to know, Ali. So, if there are no questions, I think we can wrap up. Thank you all for your time and have a great night's rest. Yeah, sure, sure. I'll make the recording available as soon as I can. So have a great night's rest, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow, hopefully. Bye, everyone.